They say grief humbles a person, that when you lose someone you love, you're too broken to fight, too shattered to stand. But on the day I buried my wife, I discovered grief can also burn. And that fire was lit at the very gates of our neighborhood. Because that was the day the Homeowners Association president tried to stop my wife's coffin from passing through. My name is Daniel Mercer, systems engineer, the guy who wired half the infrastructure this suburban community relies on, from the cameras perched on every corner to the irrigation that waters each blade of grass. But none of that mattered when I found myself face to face with Cynthia Bellamy. Cynthia wasn't just the HOA president. She was the HOA, the self-anointed queen of bylaws, a woman who believed her word carried more weight than compassion, more authority than grief. The hearse idled behind me. My daughter's sobs broke through the silence inside the car, and there Cynthia stood, hand on the iron gate lever, smiling that smug little smile. "You can't bring her in," she said. "Board rules exist for a reason." Those words pierced deeper than any insult. On the very day I was supposed to lay Lee, my wife, my partner, my everything, to rest, this woman decided to make her power absolute. But here's the thing about power. When you push it too far, you awaken something dangerous in the people you're trying to control. Lee had only one request before she passed. She wanted to be buried beneath the oak tree by the lake. That oak wasn't just wood and leaves, it was ours. The place where she held my hand during summer storms, where she promised our daughter would learn to ride a bike. That tree carried our history, our future. And now Cynthia was turning it into a battlefield. I stared her down, voice steady, though my hands shook. "I designed this system, Cynthia. Every alert, every override, it still pings back to me. Don't test me." For a flicker of a second, the mask cracked. Her smugness slipped, just slightly. The weight of our neighbors' stares pressing from behind their curtains, their phones recording every second, forced her hand. She stepped aside, not out of compassion, not out of respect, but because she feared the backlash. The hearse rolled through the gates, slow, deliberate, and with every turn of its wheels, I felt the insult branded into Lee's memory, her dignity put on trial by a woman drunk on power. The burial was suffocatingly silent. The oak stood tall, but the weight in the air pressed heavier than prayers. Our neighbors didn't gather to comfort me. No, they came to watch, to witness what Cynthia had done. Their faces were tight, cautious, because for years she had ruled with an iron grip. Freshly painted doors to her standards, hedges trimmed to the inch, toys banned from porches, people lived under her thumb, afraid to step out of line. But stopping a coffin, that crossed a line no rulebook could excuse. And I wasn't done. That evening, the HOA held its monthly meeting. I walked into the community hall, still wearing the grief on my shoulders like a weight. Cynthia sat at the head of the table, her board members lined up like obedient soldiers. Rows of folding chairs filled with neighbors, their whispers swirling like a storm about to break. She tapped her microphone, her tone calm, pretending nothing had happened. "Tonight's session will address the unauthorized procession." That word, unauthorized, was her shield, as if my wife's funeral was a violation of her precious rulebook. I didn't wait for permission. I rose, my voice cutting through the room. "Call it what you want, but you tried to stop my wife from being buried in her own neighborhood. That isn't order, that's abuse." The whispers grew louder. A man in the back muttered, "Order my ass." Heads nodded. Cynthia looked rattled. For once, the gavel in her hand rang hollow. And then I saw him, Mark Ellison, the treasurer. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His forehead beaded with sweat, a crack in her wall, one I made note of. The next morning, an email arrived. Notice of violation, unauthorized funeral gathering. Fine, $1,500. I almost laughed. Imagine turning grief into a line item. That was Cynthia's weapon. Fines, intimidation, humiliation. For a moment, I almost gave in. Sitting before Lee's photo, I thought maybe I should sell the house, disappear. Maybe I was the crazy one for trying to fight a woman with a rulebook and an army of puppets. But then I remembered Lee's voice, whispering, "Promise me I'll rest under that oak tree." No, I wasn't crazy. I was the only one left standing. So I turned to the only weapon she couldn't control, data. My servers hummed as I pulled up the logs, every override, every lock, every denial, all stamped with her credentials. The system she thought gave her control was mine, and it recorded everything. But hiding evidence in a drawer wouldn't be enough. People needed to see. So that Saturday at the playground, I set up a small projector. Kids ran around, parents sipped coffee, and then I cast the logs against a concrete wall for everyone to see. "See this entry?" I pointed. "Gate blocked. User, Bellamy." See, that's the moment she stopped the hearse. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones rose into the air, recording. And in the back, I saw him again, Mark Ellison, shoulders hunched, jaw trembling. He wasn't my enemy, he was unraveling. That night, a note slipped under my door. "Meet me by the maintenance shed, midnight." Mark arrived in a hoodie, eyes darting, breath shaky. "I can't keep covering for her," he whispered. And then it spilled out. Cynthia had been issuing fines without approval, hiding financial records, even rewriting logs before anyone could see them. He handed me a USB drive. His hands trembled. "If she finds out I gave you this, she'll bury me." Inside, the files were damning, fake violations, hidden accounts. Cynthia's own handwriting scribbled across memos, "Push this through quietly." Finally, proof, not rumor, not suspicion, proof. But timing mattered. Dumping it all at once would let her twist it. I needed the right stage. That stage was the community church. After Sunday service, I stood beneath the cross with my projector again. I showed the logs, the financial records, her handwriting. "This isn't about rules," I told them. "It's about control." The room erupted, phones lit up, cameras recorded. And then Mark stepped forward. His voice shook, but his words struck like thunder. "It's true, all of it. She locks records, invents fines. I signed numbers I knew weren't clean because I was scared. But after what she did at Lee's funeral, I can't stay quiet anymore." The crowd roared. "I knew it," someone muttered. "She's finished," another shouted. For the first time, Cynthia's empire trembled. 2 days later, she called an emergency HOA meeting, mandatory attendance. Her email dripped with authority. "Unauthorized demonstrations will not be tolerated." But when I walked into the gymnasium, it wasn't fear I saw, it was fire. The place was packed. Neighbors who hadn't attended a meeting in years were there, phones raised, eyes sharp. Cynthia sat at the long table in her pastel suit, hair perfect, gavel clutched like a weapon. "Certain individuals have chosen to spread falsehoods," she began, "damaging the reputation of our association." Then, from the back, "You blocked a coffin." The words struck like a gunshot. The crowd surged. Cynthia's lips tightened. She pressed on. "Order must be restored." I walked forward, folder in hand. "Order? You call it order when you block a grieving family from burying their dead, when you invent fines and siphon money." I laid the papers across the podium, receipts, logs, her handwriting. Cameras zoomed in. Cynthia's face flushed crimson. "Those documents are stolen property," she snapped. I cut her off. "As treasurer, Mark Ellison has the right to share them. Isn't that right, Mark?" Every head turned, silence, and then Mark rose, voice shaking but resolute. "It's true, I gave him the files. Cynthia has been hiding records, issuing fines without approval. I signed off on numbers I knew were wrong because I was scared, but I'm not scared anymore." The gym erupted, shouts, stomps, the air vibrated with the sound of rebellion. Cynthia slammed her gavel. "This meeting is out of order. Security, remove them." But the guards didn't move. The crowd was too united. Voices rose, "Resign, apologize." Cameras hovered inches from her face, streaming live. Cynthia's mask cracked, her board shifted away from her, sweat beaded at her temples. And then the chant grew deafening. Apologize, apologize. Her grip loosened, shoulders sagged, and finally she whispered it. I'm sorry, I should not have stopped the procession. The room erupted, cheers, claps, tears. But they weren't celebrating her apology, they were celebrating her fall. Cynthia Bellamy, the woman who believed she could rule through fear and bylaws, had been forced to bow. And standing there, folder still in my hand, I realized something. This fight was never just about Lee's coffin. It was about dignity. About proving that no one, not even a president with a rulebook, has the right to strip it away. Because power built on fear will always collapse when the truth finally speaks. That was today's tale from HOA Tales. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.